Thank you. My bio has never been accused of being short. It's the word you can pronounce is Agirre Lehendakaria Center. It's a think tank in the Basque Country in Bilbao. Thank you for inviting me. I feel like I didn't know what pay to play until I got here. Apparently speaking about the fee. It's a good system you've got, I have to say. I will check in. You're just writing the same questions from last time. All right, so as you heard, I'm talking about the title is AI politics, ethics, and debate. Plato. This is I think you write about ethics, AI, and politics fairly. We can't talk about all of this morning. Talk about a colleague in the School of Public Affairs who teaches the course for the AI revolution. We updates the syllabus in real time because so much is happening so often. Instead, I want to focus on a couple of small pieces of it, and hopefully we have time for a conversation. That notes in front of me, which is why we're bringing that. It's also telling that the first question that we're waiting to test is it the truth? Now, Rotary was founded in 1905, and according to AI, which I checked minutes ago, the four-way test was adopted in 1935. So your first most fundamental question predates all of this. I think it's part of what it is we'll talk about. It makes us concerned about AI. My assumption is most of you have an opinion about AI. My assumption is further that most of you know something about it, probably a lot about it. I'm going to get parts of it wrong. We're going to think parts of it are managed. That's fine. We can have that conversation or take me outside later. College administrator and political consultant. I'm just getting another person of people. But I want to do those at least level set a bit at the beginning. Define some terms at the outset and then get into the conversation. Broadly speaking, there are two kinds of artificial intelligence: predictive and generative. Predictive AI predictably predicts things. Putting guiding towards law and writing for an outlet called tech target. Predictive AI uses patterns and historical data to forecast future outcomes and classify future events, provides actionable insights and aids in decision-making and strategy formulation. Looks at big data and says, based on all this stuff, this is probably what's going to happen next. Like that's weather. That's I used weights to get here. That's weights. That's generative AI, on the other hand, generates things. It goes into the universe of whatever it's looking into, involving the internet, and the data and produces writing or pictures or images based on what's already out there. Lawton writes, generative AI focuses on creating new and original content, such as images, text, and media, by learning from existing data patterns. Those are broadly speaking the two. Both are important. Both matter a lot. I want to focus more on generative, but I do want to talk a bit about predictive. So predictive AI has been used a lot in a lot of fields for a long time. Right? President Biden's commissioner to use the drug administration, a guy named Rob Califf, you may know him, he's a department. Rob was also President Obama's commissioner for the FDA. And between Obama and Biden, went to Google. And he said they were using AI constantly to predict outbreaks, to predict health trends, to predict all sorts of things. So predictive AI has been used. It's also been used a lot in public relations for a long time. It's a firm called Profit, capital P, capital R, and OPHTR, Profit. It's a mediocre pun. If you look at it, it's a terrible pun. But they have been using, according to its website, to predict media interest, surface and rank top 100+ journalists to target a future story, and sources of contact information, including email, Twitter handle, journalists, and podcasts. So all of you who work in the press know, or in public relations know, you want to find a reporter who's likely to write about what you care about, you call them person. So Profit has been finding those people, what they're like, when do they want to get editors. We're using predictive AI to help public relations. There's a political consulting firm called Resume that says, according to its website, it provides comprehensive solutions for building, modeling, and assessing any voting audience in real time, enabling you to identify, understand, and target voters for voting outcomes. This is in 2024. I think it's a Republican. This looks for voters. And so based on what we know about these voters, they're likely to care about taxes, immigration, potholes, traffic, schools, whatever. This is not new. In 2008, the Obama campaign was using a version of machine learning or predictive AI to find out what voters would care about to generate figure out what emails to send them. We'd look at social media data, look at what all of us are doing online. At that time, it was predominantly Facebook, I think, and saying, okay, based on what you're reading, you're interacting with, what you're sharing, liking, you're likely to respond to an email about climate, immigration, and what it happens to be. So it's been around for a while. Generally speaking, what predictive AI does is older even than the Rotary founding, the four-way test, and even the founding of Rotary. Aristotle in the Rhetoric, which I assume all of you have read Aristotle's Rhetoric. No? Well, we'll be under the 10. Aristotle wrote in the Rhetoric that the orator has to therefore guess the subjects on which his hearers really hold views already, what those views are, and then must express in general truths the same views on the same subjects. Predictive AI does what Aristotle said good speakers should do. Aristotle, again, long time ago, 2000 AD, although he played at Maryland. 3 days from the frog, but all right, so in many ways, predictive AI does what comms people, political people were doing literally for thousands of years. It raises ethical questions. Right? A lot of the ethical questions around predictive AI are around data privacy. Like, how is it finding out what we care about? Looking in your sock drawer? Is it just reading your credit card statements? Instagram? The secret Instagram account you keep? What's it different? Another risk is hyper-targeting campaigns. Right? One of the ways democracy works, or it doesn't work, is if we're having roughly the same conversation about the same thing, the same set of facts. If each of us is having our own conversation, that's hard to have a democracy. And predictive AI arguably could make your campaign about you, your campaign about you, your campaign about you. So all three of you are actually participating in different campaigns because you're getting different messages. Turns out that hasn't happened. That's been a concern raised in the past by some observers, but it hasn't happened, but it's worth investigating. A lot more to talk about with predictive AI, but I want to focus on generative AI. The best campaigns use predictive AI to figure out generative AI, right? So I'm going to look at your social media history and produce an ad that's going to speak to you. So that's a generative piece of it. The best campaigns also gather, like, trying to do canvas, what you learn from talking to people when they knock on the doors, looking at mail, looking at text, looking at email, try to combine all of this into one unified message. Super hard to do in a campaign. There's a lot of data moving very quickly in a pretty high stress environment. AI can help make that better to help produce better messaging. Generative AI in campaigns is newer, but again, it's around. There are a raft of companies using generative AI in political campaigns. A lot of what you saw in 2024 came from generative AI. There's an organization called Campaigns and Elections. It used to be a magazine. It's nice to talk to a group of people who know what the word magazine means. Tell my students in the internet about paper. It used to be a magazine. It's basically a B2B site for the campaign industry. They have conferences, email newsletters, that sort of thing. And it's a bipartisan organization for people who do direct mail, phone banking, texting, website building, grassroots, things like that. And they have annual rewards because, of course, they have annual rewards. They have an entire section for AI. If you can get a plaque for it, like, it's already part of the culture, right? The AI toothpaste isn't just out of the tube. It is going to happy hour and taking selfies with the candidates. Let's talk about some of the ways in which AI is being used. One is writing email. Email is relatively easy to write. There's a firm called Authentic. It's an Democratic email fundraising firm out of Chicago, run by Nellis. And Mike's argument is he's the ethical email fundraising guy. He's not writing emails that say, $75, you'll shoot me as he blows his dog. He's not writing those emails. He started a spin-off firm called Quilla. And according to Quilla's website, Quilla is an AI co-pilot designed for mission-driven organizations to generate high-impact content from fundraising emails to direct mail. Quiller moves you from concept to final draft instantly, freeing up the time so you can better support your communities. So it will write the draft email that you use the campaign will then perfect. I'm going to share some data about this in a minute. Actually, according to Quiller, a candidate for mayor in Bowling Green, Kentucky, used generative AI tool to help with fundraising emails for a month. Over that time, fundraising efficiency skyrocketed 1,750% from $8.33 a minute to $56.47 a minute. Email open rates showing 15% higher than previous benchmarks. Click-through rates hit 2.5 times the industry average. So when you run a campaign, you want to know how much money am I raising per minute? Because I got to raise $1 million. How long is that going to take me to do it? Quiller raises more money faster than emails written by people. And one of the reasons is you think you know what you're doing, you know what you're talking about. Well, I know it will really persuade these people, and you'll type it will persuade you, which is terrific. But you're talking to him, right? AI doesn't care because AI doesn't think anything. It finds out what's most popular, what's out there the most, which by definition is what most people will find compelling, and simply reproduce. So it writes really good email really fast. There's a Republican firm called, again, it's a visual term. I really wish comms people would stop naming their own firms. It's called AMP AI by purely the AI capital and amplified and just they use AI to facilitate meaningful dialogue among stakeholders. According to the website, the firm can summon the AI Legion. It doesn't say it in that tone of voice, but I feel like that's what you said. Summon the AI Legion. And the power of 1,000 volunteers and sorts opt-outs, organizes, evaluates response, arranges subsequent follow-ups, and instantly enriches your database of visual insights. And if you look at their website, it has everybody has the same robot in every ad, and it's this white plastic thing with a human face, but everything else is clearly, and it has just this row of them typing, as if that's supposed to be compelling, right? We're going to sign up for AMP AI and 1,000 volunteer army. Terrifying image. What it will do though is if you text the campaign will text and say, what do you care about? You'll text back the environment. And you use all lowercase letters without punctuation because they're apparently 20 years old and they don't believe in punctuation. It will respond saying, thank you so much. I care about the environment. Here's why. And it will do it in all lowercase letters that are punctuated. It will respond, mimicking it will reach into its library of responses, but it will respond in a way that you send it. So it sounds like it's having an authentic conversation. It's a just chat. There's a Democratic candidate for the House in Pennsylvania who is an AI chatbot to call voters. I love this. Voters who answer the phone heard, hello, my name is Ashley, and I'm an artificial intelligence volunteer for Shane Daniels, right, for Congress. The bot then answered policy questions, and you could talk. I feel like anything with AI, the verbs have to be quotation marks. It talked to Ashley. A couple things to highlight here. It has a name, it's Ashley. It's Ashley. It's not Guinevere, it's not bots, right? It sounds like, oh, Ashley sounds nice, right?
She volunteered.
And well, we're going to get to that in a moment. The bot was developed by a company called Civox. According to its website, Civox isn't just about reaching more, it's about connecting better and more deeply, offering scalable automated solutions. Civox brings natural, meaningful conversation to the forefront, coupled with detailed analytics for every call made. So the website says the chatbot provides natural, meaningful conversations that connect deeply with voters. A bot will have a natural and meaningful conversation that connects deeply. The tool, which is a computer program, again, it said it volunteered. That means it wasn't turned on. Nobody hit return. Ashley decided to take time out of her very busy bot day to put off listening to Smart Lists or whatever podcast bots listen to. Not go to little Susie's, dance recital because the election matters more. And volunteered to call voters. The candidate, by the way, lost the primary. According to Wired magazine, 2 AI bots ran for office last year, one in the UK and one ran for Mayor of Cheyenne. The Mayor of Cheyenne bot was called Vic, capital VIC. It was actually co-running with Victor, who was the bot's puppet master or something. And it said, Victor said he would help use AI to help run the city's capital city. Vic and Victor ran into trouble, all of it ran into trouble with OpenAI, which is a company that owns all of this, because they violated their terms of service. Also Vic and Victor went on to lose the election, 327 votes to 11,036 votes. But they did leave one newspaper to write the headline, Cheyenne, Wyoming elects human mayor. Welcome to 2024. There's a Democratic, so there's a lot of ways that people are using AI. I actually asked generative AI to produce more examples for me when I was getting ready to give this talk. I gave the version of this talk at the bottom using Brian Green out in March. And it wouldn't, because it said it violated its terms of service, but encouraged me to do a Google search instead. So Google's AI wouldn't talk to me, but told me I should talk to Google, which feels like a therapy thing for Google, maybe a counseling session. I don't know, join Rotary and learn how to be in community level. But one of the things that freaks people out about AI, generative AI, is it makes nonsense sound compelling. Yeah. Right? On the New Yorker podcast, Joshua Rothman said that ChatGPT is, quote, not trying to be right, just trying to be plausible. The New York Times columnist Zeta Tufekci wrote ChatGPT sometimes gave highly plausible answers that were flat out wrong. Well, we all have a hallucination story. In other words, generative AI produced, quote, not what is really right, but what is likely to seem right in the eyes of the mass of people who are going to pass judgment, not what is really good or fine, but what will seem so. That last bit is actually from Plato. So Plato, again, predating even Rotary and Fox and all of it, made a pretty good living dealing with the sophists. The sophists are a group of people who claim to teach people how to speak well and this kind of stuff. And in one of the dialogues, Phaedrus, Plato asks Phaedrus what makes a good speech. Isn't it knowing the truth of the matter? And Phaedrus' response is no. It's not what is true, but what will seem so, which is the complaint about AI. Right? It produces things that sound true but aren't, which was also George Orwell's complaint about political language in 1946. Politics in the English language in 1946 said that political language, gosh, I was spacing up again in my head, but it's trying to make give the appearance of solidity to pure wind. And he complained that words like democracy, fascism, and others were used so much that lost their meaning entirely. Orwell, 1946. So my argument then becomes,
what would you say?
Question becomes,
my duty-free letter is not for distribution to anybody else, but Charisse and internal. Okay?
I get that. So the complaints about nonsense and made up stuff in politics go back to the founding of politics. Plato complained about it. Quintilian in 95 complained about hack advocates. And I should note that's not 1995, that's 95. And hack advocates is his term. Nonsense has been part of American politics from the beginning. In 1782, Ben Franklin, right, he was the founder that it's okay to like universally liked, I think. Ben Franklin invented an entire supplement of a newspaper when he was in England to help sway European opinion against the British. It had real news on its front broadside, and he made up an op-ed where he simply lied about what the British were doing to help persuade the rest of Europe to stay on the colonist side at the end of the American Revolution. In 1898, William Randolph Hearst famously wanted to get the U.S. to get the side of Cubans on their battle in Spain to become independent. The USS Maine exploded and sunk in the harbor of Havana. Hearst sent one of his reporters there and he said, "You furnish the pictures, I'll provide the war." Front page news in the Hearst newspapers, and he claimed that it was an active war, that the USS Maine was sunk. There was probably a boiler explosion. TV shows about DC are fake. All of you have seen House of Cards. I grew up, like my students came in as Generation West Wing, and politics was happy and exciting and thrilling. Then it was Generation House of Cards. The tenor of my students changed. A lot of the exteriors of House of Cards were filmed in Baltimore, but next to the park downtown DC. And we were talking about art earlier, right? Many of you know the Hudson River School of Painters. right? They painted the Grand American West. They went out west and painted huge landscape paintings. It's been an Alfred Bierstadt was one of the leaders of this movement. And one of his most famous paintings was called Lander's Keep. And it was meant to present the West, an idealized West for manifest destiny. For it helped get the National Park Service, create a vision of what the West could be. The problem is the paintings weren't entirely true. Right? One art historian wrote, despite the documentary roots, the painting is a composite. In order to convey the awe-inspiring vastness and possibility of the American West, Bierstadt depicts an ideal landscape rather than the actual view of Lander's Peak. The American West as they hope it would be. And these paintings helped give rise to the National Park Service. They were deep fakes, but they were done on oil. They weren't done by AI. Right? Ansel Adams did most of his best work in the darkroom. He created the image he wanted us to see. So, the last example I'm going to give here, and then I want to open the conversation with my there's a sheriff in Philadelphia a year or so ago who's really not, nobody really liked the sheriff. And I got a call from the Philadelphia Inquirer who said, hey, I looked at the sheriff's website and all these news stories with real headline or real news outlets, but the stories themselves were made up, right? So I read the stories and they seemed really flattering. So I called the news outlet and said, did you write this? The news outlet said no. And so you direct the project in ethics and political communication. What do you think about this sheriff making stuff up? I said, well, that's wrong. Right? Of course, you shouldn't do that. And by the way, these stories sound like they were written by AI. And so the Philadelphia Inquirer called back, by the sheriff back, and said, the stories written by AI. And she said, yes, they were. The fact that the stories were written by AI got more attention than the fact that they weren't true. Right? You've all been around Washington a long time. You've probably worked in politics, from advocacy. Nobody writes their own stuff. Right? I've written countless speeches and emails and talking points for candidates and elected officials. I have my staff that can respond to that. I will get responses to emails that I never feel right. Right? There are armies of political consultants who get paid, some of them very well, to produce ads, speeches, talking points, things like that. None of us get angry about it. None of us wants to say to the meeting address and think, I don't want the army with 30 speechwriters to go forward or have credits roll like at the end of a movie in the past. Thank you very much, God bless America. Names the speechwriter. None of us get upset about it. We're angry about it. So the question I want to put on the table, my ethical question, like there's a lot of ethical questions there. My argument is that AI does what we've always done. Predictive AI does what Aristotle said we should do. Generative AI raises questions that Plato raised 2,500 years ago. It is faster at scale. It is different in how far its reach can be. But what it does is fundamentally the same thing we have been doing for thousands of years, which is making stuff up to get what we want. I want to find out what you believe to be true. I'm going to tell you you're right and sell you a bottle of water. Or ask you for the $20 that I owe you for taking so much of your time, or whatever it happens to. So as we think about ethics, AI, and politics, I think it's also important to do what are we really concerned about? And then what do we do about it? Is AI forcing us to answer the ethical question that Plato asked us to answer 2,500 years ago and we failed to answer? Or is it something else? Is it something new? So that for me is my 20-minute rant about AI, politics, and ethics. What I'd like to do is email the link to the larger speech with other internal links around so you can read the whole thing. I've taken 20 minutes of your time. I'm just going to give a 10-minute Q&A or discussion. What do you think? Please.
The last thing about the bomb and the scale of it. To me, that sounds actually quite profound. And the ability to move very large numbers of people very quickly. What are your comments on that?
Yeah, I think you're right. Nonsense can move around the world faster than ever before, to be good and faster than ever before. Absolutely. And I think that there are probably ways to help control that or measure that. I remember with institutes around the world that look at online disinformation, spreading disinformation, and how to counter it, and how to do fact checking, things like that. A lot of those are being funded right now. The National Science Foundation grants being pulled for things that do that. We have something called the Institute for Data Democracy and Politics, my program over at GW. It's lost its federal funding, the private funding team, but the researchers are getting nasty grants and more from elected officials and some very the public. So there are ways we can understand that, and that matters. I don't want to diminish that. But as we talk about that, and as we talk about regulation, as we talk about checking that, I also don't want to lose sight of the fact that this is a new take on a really old question we've never really answered. Right? I mean, your first task is it the truth? So this is bottled water. It is former natural resources. It is future garbage. It is commerce. It's an example of late modern capitalism that I can take this free thing, package it, and include the oceans with it. It is convenience. It is hydration. It is health. It is all of those things. But what I leave with the description of it is how you then respond to it. Right? And so it's like, what are we paying attention to and how are we paying attention to it? So as we pay attention to scale and scope, I also want to pay attention to the fundamental question, which is what is the relationship between the truth, rhetoric, persuasion, and democracy? And that's a harder conversation. We can largely govern the question.
Post had a great article 3 days ago about a study that showed Chat GPT was more persuasive in a debate than human beings. I did notice in the study, though, that the really relevant improvement that Chat had over its human competitors in a debate at 900 people. This was a real study. But Chat GPT knew the basic demographics of their opponent, and the human being did not. So I don't think that's exactly fair. At the same time, ChatGPT did better even not knowing what the other persons did. My question to you is this. I think Rotary is an organization, if we're going to move forward, we need to be modern. We need to understand the power of AI and use it. At the same time, I think we need to lean into the idea that we can be the glue that helps prevent some of the awful stuff that ChatGPT does and actually human content.
A lot there. So first on the debate piece, then I think the importance of Rotary. It is unsurprising that ChatGPT is better at debating than because it again doesn't have an ego. Doesn't well, I know if I'm super clever. How do I know I'm super clever? Just ask me. I'm a college professor. I have rooms full of 20-year-olds. That tell me you're so smart. Weirdly, they all get good grades. I don't know. I just assume it's because they're brilliant, not because they're sucking up. Right. So, I mean, first, the other part is ChatGPT. One of my students, I teach a course on political communication ethics. We talk about this a lot. And a couple of years ago, one of my students said that ChatGPT is a status quo machine. It takes what appears the most, which is a proxy for what is most popular, and repeats it. So, of course, it's the most persuasive because that is what people have already been persuaded by the most. One of my colleagues, this guy who teaches this ethics, this generative AI class, way ahead of the curve on generative AI stuff, right? He was access to knowledge from the public. And he said he was reading an epic poem written by GPT. It was really, really good. It was a really good poem. I said, of course it was, because you were raised on what you thought a good epic poem was, and it went in and found all the most popular epic poems and mimicked them. And of course it was persuasive to you. It is by definition repeating the status quo. And the status quo is the status quo for a reason. We all do it. The other piece though about community I think is super important. ChatGPT cannot be creative, open debate, but it can't be surprising. And Amy Burness from Burness Communications comes from points out that the thing GPT can't do is replicate what his guy can do, which is find a new way because that isn't their pocket. The other thing that happens in community is the most human thing we do. I keep checking and checking. It's Aristotle in the Nicomachean ethics. So the point of being human is achieving flourishing, eudaimonia. We only fully achieve eudaimonia in community. The polis is the highest, the city, what we do as people. We have language unlike other animals. Languages that come together to talk to each other, to listen to each other. So it's that human connection that I think matters the most, right? And I can tell, you can tell that some things were written by GPT. It doesn't, it's like a cover of a song that isn't quite right. And it's compelling to 900 people in an auditorium, then you read text or whatever. But you know, if you're talking to somebody, if they're full of nonsense, right? We live in DC. This is a town full of people going, hey, how you doing? You're looking great. This is really fantastic. What a good looking group of people. This is, I love that. Wish I could go. That's really, you know what, though? You look really great if you started talking points. An interesting use of talking points and you know, this is really important. Like we've been in this conversation. This is Maryland. Like every Tuesday, there's a group of people going, hey, how you doing? Right? Don't do that. Rotary doesn't do that. That's the human piece. They do that only if it's achieving who we are. I think that's the thing. I over-answered.
No, it's 59.
I'm gonna first offer you our token of appreciation for coming here for sharing that very interesting topic. And so we're gonna close the meeting in now, but I think we can still continue to ask questions after the